So, rationing, World War II style. So things like butter, cheese, lard, margarine, sugar, eggs, meat, sweets were all on ration. You could have, what have we got here? So for one person per week, 2 ounces of butter, which is, that's actually for 2 people, isn't it? We've weighed out.
We've weighed out our joint ration.
So most of this is actually our joint ration. So this is 2 people's worth butter for a week. Cheese. This is the really depressing bit.
We do like cheese.
So that's, again, like butter, that's 2 ounces per person. We're making a slight concession because my wife, who is holding the camera, works in a, well, the place where you work,
It's a plant nursery now, but it would have been a market garden or the kitchen garden of the big house.
The big house next to it, yes.
Which would have been turned over for veg production and probably staffed mostly by land girls.
So land girls got an extra cheese ration, which was, it was double.
Yes, so
you got an extra 2 ounces of cheese.
Some of the manual agricultural workers and also miners and some of the long distance sort of haulage workers were allowed extra cheese, mainly because of lunch boxes.
Yes, so that's cheese ration for 2 people, 2 average people, and then the land girls got an extra ration each.
Yay, cheese!
Because it was good to put in bread and sandwiches for lunches. So Marge is this one. That's 4 ounces per person. So this is an 8 ounce thing, which is both of our ration.
Twice as much marge as butter.
Twice as much marge as butter. So I don't know how much is going to go in baking, but this is probably what we're going to be spreading on. Spreading on bread.
Probably save your butter for special occasions or for cakes.
Yeah.
Something that you needed, something richer. The marge, a scraping on your toast.
Yeah. And then lard. So this is your cooking fat. Again, 4 ounces per person, same as the margarine. So this is both of ours. So that's got to last you a week of cooking. Might not actually be too bad.
Yeah, as long as you sort of only put in a little bit in the in the frying pan or whatever.
Yeah.
We do tend to slosh the oil in and
that's the thing. We
cook things with a lot of oil and such like.
Yeah, we cook with oil, so it's going to be getting used to. I was going to say cooking on solid fuel. That's not quite what I meant. That's cooking fat. Milk, 3 pints. As you can see, the milkman hasn't been yet. These are empty, but that's what 3 pints would look like. That's per person. So obviously 6 for a couple. One concession with that is my wife is lactose intolerant.
Yeah, I struggle with milk.
To a certain extent. So she's actually going to have the same amount of oat milk.
That was the maximum ration. It did drop at times during the war to about 2.5. Yeah. And children got a little bit extra.
Yes. One of the depressing parts of this is 1 egg.
1 egg per person.
Per person.
Per week.
Per week. Yeah, I eat a lot of scrambled egg on toast for breakfast.
How many cake recipes need 2 eggs?
2 eggs.
4 eggs.
3 eggs.
It's not going to go very far.
Baking is not going to go very far. And of course, transporting them is an issue, which is why they came up with powdered egg. Because you can transport 3 times as much powdered egg, because it's dehydrated, it's dried. You can transport something like 3 times as much powdered egg for regular egg. Because you've obviously got the shells as well, and it doesn't matter if you drop that. So what did we work out? That's worth one of those, isn't it?
I think the packet is worth about 8 eggs.
8 eggs.
I think we worked out, and you'd get a packet of, I think it was a pack of powdered eggs that would be equivalent to about 12 eggs.
Yeah.
As once a month, I believe, to go alongside your 1 egg ration.
So one concession we are going to make with eggs. I am going to try the powdered egg at some point. See what it's like. But we are going to have more eggs than the ration. During the recent pandemic of unspecified origin, we had our own allotment. We had it before the pandemic, growing a lot of our own vegetables. And at one point, when there were food shortages, shelves were empty and people were panic buying toilet roll, we actually started swapping eggs for veg with our neighbours. A lot of our neighbours, at least 2 neighbours, I think now 3 people I think have now got chickens. But at the time, 2 of our neighbours had chickens, and we were swapping vegetables for eggs.
It's one of the ways, living where we are, we'd be better off in being in the rural area than you would in the middle of the cities.
Yeah.
You had more opportunity to keep chickens, to rear rabbits, forage, all sorts.
Yeah, we live in the middle of nowhere, so it's nice. It was much better off than the people in cities. So we've done. So yeah, we're going to limit ourselves to about 6 eggs a week. So 1 6-pack.
Yeah, chicken keepers could give up their egg ration and exchange it for chicken meal, for feed for the chickens. So we can just pretend we've got a few chickens for this month.
And what we did is
borrow a neighbour's chickens.
We'd hand over vegetables to neighbours. They'd give us eggs and the chicken poo to go on the vegetables.
Perfect arrangement.
It worked both ways. So that's eggs. Sugar. So that is actually slightly under the 2 people sugar ration, isn't it?
I've already taken out 4 ounces for some bacon this afternoon. That cake that was finished just now is now making the kitchen smell very good.
Yes. Got a cake to eat in a minute. So that's actually, sugar is 8 ounces per person. So we started off with 16 ounces, and you've used 4. So you've used a quarter of our weekly ration in 1 cake.
Yep.
But no eggs or anything went into it, did it?
No, that particular recipe didn't use any eggs or fat, which was why I chose it.
Now I take sugar. You take a very small amount of sugar in tea, and I tend to have at least 2. So it's going to be interesting seeing how that goes. On the subject of tea, that is tea ration for both of us.
For both of us for a week, minus what we've used today.
Minus what we've used today, which actually, considering we've had at least 2 full pots of tea, is not bad. I mean, what day are we today? Friday?
I think we've used 3 or 4 teaspoons.
Yeah, so sort of Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, we might just about make it. What's next? Meat. Now then.
Apologies to any vegetarians watching at this moment.
If you're easily offended by meat, stop looking now.
We'll get back to the veggies in a minute.
So meat to the value of 1 shilling, or 1 shilling and 6pence, which it's difficult converting old money to new money, but it's about we think it's about £5 today.
Buying power wise, not a direct translation, but we've used a calculator that's provided by the National Archives. Found online.
Is it the Bank of England one?
No, it was the National Archives one I used for this.
So it's about £5, the equivalent buying power today. For that, we managed to get 500 grams leg of beef, which is that lump in there, which should easily do us several days, several meals.
Went for one of the cheaper cuts that isn't particularly fashionable and popular because it needs a long, slow cook.
That's right, it just means we can stew it.
It goes a long way. You get a lot more for your money if you go for the more economical cuts.
So you get the cheap cuts, slow cook it, much better value. Bacon. My assistant hasn't provided me with the amount of bacon.
Does it not say there?
Rasher. We worked out it was about 3 or 4 rashers. Well, it was 2 ounces.
It's 4 ounces per person per week.
Per person, which comes out about 3 or 4 rashers. Obviously, if you buy streaky, which we have done, you get a lot more. Obviously, the smaller rashers, but fattier bits as well. The fat, you can get the fat out of them when they're cooking. You can reuse the fat for cooking other things. In this case, it just adds flavour. Something that wasn't rationed was offal, which we both eat. I quite like black pudding and that sort of thing. So what we did pick up today was, is it calf's liver?
Calf's liver, 200 grams.
200 grams of calf's liver, which is tonight's dinner, hopefully with a bit of bacon.
Well, yeah, luckily the butcher had a bit available. Wasn't always the case in the 40s. You would quite often, as a housewife, end up queuing for hours and hope that there was some left when you got to the other end of the queue.
Yes. So we'll carry on with. We'll come back to the tinned meat in a minute because that's on points. So the last two things on the rationing list that we've got is preserves, such as jam, marmalade, that sort of thing. Now, jam was £1 per person for 2 months.
Yes, so one of those jars, roughly.
So one of those jars has to last...
one person, 2 months.
2 months, if you can stop it going mouldy. We tend to end up... Yeah, I don't think we've ever finished a jar of jam without it going off. Well, except the pear stuff I had on holiday. So that's got to last us a month.
Yes.
That one jar. 2 of us.
Whether it's on toast or going in jam sponge, in desserts, it's... Yeah, there's multiple uses, but got to stretch it.
We've done the tea. Sweets and chocolate. Now this is slightly under the rationed amount because we were putting some aside for cocoa, weren't we?
Yes,
cocoa powder,
we're going to get some cocoa powder.
Which is will be considered in the chocolate ration. So that's got to last me, that's my portion, a month. So I'm actually going to count those out later and see how many I'm allowed a day, and then that's probably dessert for the rest of the week or something. For the rest of the month. Now then, other things. Something that wasn't rationed was fruit and veg, and here we have an array of fruit and veg. We actually get a vegetable box every 2 weeks, which even today we don't finish all of. I suspect this month we probably will. And so yeah, we've got cabbage, celeriac, parsnip, cauliflower, carrot, leek, potato, apples, pears, and rhubarb is what we've got here. Stuff that you could grow, homegrown stuff. You know, everyone was encouraged to dig for victory, dig up your gardens. As I say, we still do have an allotment. So we have grown a lot of our own veg in the past. Certain things were more difficult to get hold of. Onions. Onions were not grown in this country, which is daft because they're really easy to grow. But at the time, they weren't really grown in this country. They were grown in France and the Channel Islands. Bit difficult to go to France and the Channel Islands in the 40s. They were kind of occupied. So onions were a rarity, so we probably won't be using many. People were even known to do them as raffle prizes. Yes. An onion as a raffle prize. They're that precious. Other things, I mean, I say a lot of homegrown veg, like your apples and your pears, homegrown fruit, sorry, would be what you'd eat, because things like bananas, oranges, lemons, Sicilian lemons, not really available until Italy was liberated, or switched sides rather. And then oranges and bananas is a bit sort of, it's a long way to come. Shipping's dangerous. You don't really want to venture out to sea to go and get them. Rhubarb. There's an issue with the rhubarb. Obviously, it's easy to grow, but you have to use a lot of sugar to make it edible because it's really sour. And so, they encourage you to eat rhubarb, but they didn't increase the sugar ration to go along with it. Another problem with it, at one point a minister, I don't think it was a minister of food, but one of the ministers said if you were short of like cabbage and spring greens or lettuce or something, you were to eat rhubarb leaves, which are poisonous. And at that point there was a minor panic in the halls of power after he said this, and they actually sent out the Home Guard to knock on everyone's doors saying, don't eat rhubarb leaves because it's not nice. Tinned, now, point system. Things in tins were on points. So, corned beef, bully beef, whatever you want to call it, was a staple of, well, most diets, especially the troops as well. And at one point, you had to take some of your Was it if it was tinned meat, you had to take some of your.
You had to take a percentage of your meat ration as corned beef.
As corned beef, you had to have corned beef. I'm not overly keen on corned beef, but that's probably a case of I haven't found a way of cooking it that I like yet.
I think it was when things got a little bit shorter in supply than anticipated, and there was a surplus of corned beef that had come over from America. They'd managed to get some shipped across, so it was encouraged to actually use it up.
Yeah. I missed out the potatoes and carrots were basically potato and carrot goes into everything because it's nice and easy to grow. The classic, carrots help you see in the dark. That was just an excuse to prevent the Germans knowing that we got radar. Potatoes very easy to grow, very high in calorific intake, and yeah, you can grow them anywhere. So the government would like you to eat them.
I believe the recommendation was every person should look to try and consume about a pound of potatoes a day.
Something like that.
A pound of potatoes amongst your main meals.
Was that 500? That's 500.
About 500 grams, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So
500 grams of spud a day. But yes, the tinned meat. Spam came in later. Again, sort of imported from America. I quite like spam, even though it does look and smell a bit like cat food when you open the tin. But fried up, it's quite nice. So I cook that up in a bit of lard, hopefully, at some point. But they were on point systems, and it was, 16 points?
Yes, it started out, I believe, 16 points per person per month. And that did change a few times during the war, so it did go up to 20, 24 points even at one stage. And each item that was allocated points, that varied again depending on the supply. But things like corned beef, tinned meat could be up to about 12 points. So if you only had 16 points a month, that was a big outlay from your points ration.
Yeah.
You still had to pay for the items, it's just the points were sort of the allowance you could purchase.
And also the other tinned fruit. It was preferred that you had tinned fruit lasts longer than fresh fruit. So in some ways it's preferable, but again it was on points, and stuff that came from abroad, tinned fruit from abroad, was more expensive, more points than homegrown stuff. And I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else.
I think we've pretty much covered most of it there. But yeah, points that also obviously included things like oatmeal, flour, tinned fish as well. That was a popular one.
Yeah.
Basically anything that was tinned in packets. It's so that when the shops finally got some stock in, because they didn't always have everything available all the time, you couldn't go along, if you were very wealthy, buy up 10 tins of corned beef.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah,
it meant that everybody was able to have a tin of corned beef without depleting the stocks.
Yeah, it's to stop the rich people hoarding stuff. Yeah, everyone had the points, so you still had to pay money for it all, but it meant everyone got a healthier, balanced diet and enough calories. We might actually do a bit of calorie counting at some point in this and see what we're having. But yes, I suggest we get all this back in the fridge now.
I think that would be a good idea. Not that many people had fridges. It would have been a cold marble slab in the larder.
Yes, we're not giving up the fridge though.
No, there are limits.